I never thought a single phone call could shatter my world, but that's exactly what happened on a random Tuesday in March. I was sitting in my office, reviewing investment portfolios, when my father's name flashed across my phone screen. He never calls during work hours, never has in the 32 years I've been alive. My name is Harper, and until that moment, I thought I had everything figured out. Good job, decent marriage, and the satisfaction of finally being able to give back to my parents after everything they'd sacrificed for me. Harper, sweetheart. Dad's voice cracked, something I'd only heard once before at my grandmother's funeral. I messed up. I messed up bad. The familiar background noise of his garage was missing. No clanking tools, no radio playing classic rock. Just silence and his ragged breathing. Dad? What's wrong? Is Mom okay? Your mother's fine. She doesn't know yet. He paused, and I heard him swallow hard. Remember Uncle Pete's investment opportunity last year? The one I told you I passed on. My stomach dropped. Uncle Pete, my father's oldest friend, had a history of get-rich-quick schemes that never panned out. You didn't. I took out loans against the house. Multiple loans. I really thought this time would be different. His voice grew smaller with each word. The bank called today. We have 30 days before they start foreclosure proceedings. I gripped my desk, knuckles white. The house I grew up in, where Mom still tended her rose garden, where Dad had taught me to change a tire in the driveway. The home they'd spent 35 years paying off. How much? I asked, already pulling up my banking app. No, Harper. I didn't call to ask for money. I needed to tell someone. Your mother's going to find out soon enough, and He choked up again. I don't know how to tell her I gambled away our retirement. A knock on my office door made me jump. Jonah, my husband, stood there with 2 coffee cups and his usual easy smile. I waved him away, probably more sharply than necessary, because his smile faltered. Dad, listen to me. Don't do anything yet. Don't tell Mom. I'll figure something out. I was already mentally calculating numbers, assets I could liquidate, the promotion I was up for next month. You've got your own life, sweetheart. Your own family to think about. You and Mom are my family too. I lowered my voice as Jonah lingered outside my door. Just give me a few days to work something out. Please. After hanging up, I sat there staring at my computer screen, not really seeing the numbers anymore. Jonah knocked again, softer this time. Everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. He set a coffee on my desk, the same way he had every day for the past 5 years. Just work stuff, I lied, surprising myself with how easily it came out. Big client meeting later. He nodded, but something in his expression suggested he didn't quite believe me. Well, don't forget we're having dinner with the Petersons tonight. Mark's got some business proposition he wants to run by me. Right. The Petersons. Another couple with another sure-thing investment opportunity. Lately, it seemed like everyone was looking for a quick path to wealth. Actually, I might have to skip it, I said. This client thing might run late. Jonah's jaw tightened slightly. You always do this. Every time I try to network. Not now, okay? I really need to focus. He left without another word, but I could feel his disappointment like a physical weight. Once upon a time, I would have felt guilty about that. Now, watching him walk away, all I could think about was how to save my parents' house without him finding out about the money I'd need to move around. I pulled up my personal banking app again, staring at the numbers. What I was considering would change everything. My marriage, my future plans, maybe even my career. But as I thought about my father's broken voice, I knew I had no choice. Sometimes the right decision is the one that costs you everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. The numbers kept dancing through my head. Dad's loans, my savings, the joint account I shared with Jonah. Around 3 in the morning, I slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen, pulling up my banking app for what felt like the 100th time. The soft glow of my phone illuminated the granite countertop I'd insisted on during our kitchen renovation last year. Another expense that seemed frivolous now. Still working. I jumped at Jonah's voice. He stood in the doorway, hair mussed from sleep, looking more vulnerable than he had in months. Just checking some things, I said, quickly locking my phone screen. He moved to the coffee maker, even though it was the middle of the night. You've been off since that phone call. Want to tell me what's really going on? I hesitated. We used to tell each other everything, but lately, our conversations had become a minefield of unspoken tensions and careful deflections. My dad's in trouble, I finally said. Financial trouble. Bad investments. The coffee maker gurgled to life. Jonah didn't turn around. How bad? They might lose the house. He was quiet for a long moment, measuring coffee grounds with precise movements. And let me guess, you're planning to save the day? Something in his tone made me bristle. They're my parents, Jonah. They're adults who made their own choices. He finally turned to face me. Just like you made yours when you turned down that partnership at Mark's firm to stay at your current job. That again? Mark's firm was a startup with no guarantee of success. My job is stable, it pays well. It's safe, he cut in. Everything you do is safe. Calculated. Maybe that's why your dad didn't come to you for advice before making his investment. The words hit like a slap. I stood up, chair scraping against the floor. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. He waved his hand dismissively. Just that maybe if you weren't so rigid about everything, people wouldn't feel the need to hide things from you. Like you're hiding things from me? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Jonah's expression shifted, almost imperceptibly. What are you talking about? The Petersons' dinner tonight. Another business opportunity you didn't want to discuss with me first. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Because you've made it clear what you think about my business ideas. Always playing it safe, always knowing better. Someone has to think about our future. Our future. He slammed his coffee mug down. Or your future. Because lately, it feels like every decision is about your career, your plans, your family. I felt the conversation spiraling away from me. That's not fair. I've always supported. Supported what? My risky ventures? Is that what you call them when you talk to your work friends? The coffee maker beeped, making us both jump. The silence that followed felt heavy with unspoken accusations. I need to help them, I said finally, my voice quiet. They gave up everything for me. Jonah's shoulders sagged. And what about us? What are you willing to give up for our marriage? Before I could answer, he grabbed his coffee and headed toward his home office, the room where he spent most nights lately. Working on projects he never seemed to want to discuss with me. I sat alone in the kitchen until sunrise, watching our perfectly curated life develop hairline cracks. The joint account statement still glowed on my phone screen, and something about the recent transactions caught my eye. A series of withdrawals I didn't recognize, all made in the past month. My finger hovered over the transaction details. Opening them would mean crossing a line, admitting that the trust in our marriage had eroded to the point where I was checking up on my husband's spending. The first light of dawn crept through our designer windows as I tapped the screen. Sometimes, the most devastating betrayals start with the smallest decisions. What I saw made my blood run cold. $50,000. Gone. The transactions were spread over 3 months, each one carefully timed to avoid detection. I stared at my laptop screen in my office, cross-referencing the withdrawals with a company name I didn't recognize, Apex Ventures LLC. My hands shook as I typed the company name into the state business registry. Founded 2 months ago. Principal owner, Jonah Calloway. A knock at my office door made me slam my laptop shut. Zara stood there, holding 2 cups of coffee, her lawyer face already on. You look like hell, she said, setting a cup on my desk. Spill. I'd known Zara since law school, before I switched to finance. She had a way of cutting through bullshit that I usually appreciated. Today, it made my throat tight. Jonah's been moving money, I said. A lot of money. Into some startup I knew nothing about. Zara's expression didn't change, but she sat down slowly. How much are we talking? 50,000. From our joint savings. I laughed, but it came out wrong. The same amount my parents need to save their house. That son of a... Zara caught herself. Have you confronted him? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Your father's not feeling well. Don't worry, probably just stress. But maybe visit soon? I can't deal with this right now, I said, showing Zara the text. My dad's sick, my mom's worried, and now this? Harper. Zara's voice had that careful tone lawyers use with fragile clients. You need to protect yourself. Let me help you separate your finances before. Before what? I stood up, pacing. Before my husband loses everything? Before my parents lose their home? Before I have to choose who to save? Before you lose everything trying to save everyone else? My office phone rang. Jonah's name flashed on the caller ID. I let it go to voicemail. He's been different lately, I said. Distant. Working late. I thought. I stopped, remembering something. The Petersons. He's been meeting with them about business opportunities. What if? Another text buzzed. This time from Dad. Don't tell your mother, but chest pain's getting worse. Doctor says stress. Sorry to worry you. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed my purse and car keys. Where are you going? Zara asked, standing. To get answers. The drive to the Petersons' office took 20 minutes. I'd avoided their investment firm for years, warning Jonah about their reputation for risky ventures. Now I understood why he'd kept meeting them in secret. Mark Peterson's receptionist recognized me. Mrs. Calloway. Mr. Peterson's in a meeting, but I was already pushing past her. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I saw Jonah sitting with Mark and someone else, a young woman with perfectly styled hair and an expensive blazer. They were laughing about something. The door swung open under my hand. 3 heads turned. Harper. Jonah stood up, his chair scraping back. What are you? Apex Ventures, I said. The young woman's smile faltered. Tell me about it. Mark Peterson cleared his throat. Perhaps we should. $50,000, Jonah. Our savings. Was it worth it? The young woman, who I now realized must be Tamsin Rivers, Mark's new associate, gathered her papers quickly. I should go. No, I said. Stay. I'd love to hear how you convinced my husband to invest our life savings in your startup. Harper, you don't understand, Jonah started. You're right, I don't understand. I don't understand how you could do this while my parents are about to lose everything. While my voice cracked. My father's in the hospital. Jonah's face went pale. What? Not that you'd care. I turned to leave, then stopped. By the way, I'm freezing our joint accounts. Good luck with your venture. You can't do that. Jonah called after me. This is my chance to finally. I didn't hear the rest. In my pocket, my phone buzzed again. Mom's number. Sometimes the universe has a cruel sense of timing. Harper. Mom's voice was shaking. We're at the hospital. Your father. He's had a heart attack. The hospital waiting room smelled like despair and old coffee. Mom sat beside me, her hands twisting a tissue into confetti, while I tried to focus on the insurance forms in my lap. The words blurred together. Pre-existing conditions, coverage limits, deductibles. Mrs. Linwood? A nurse appeared with a clipboard. Your husband's asking for you. Mom squeezed my hand before following the nurse. I stayed behind, staring at the forms until my phone buzzed. Jonah's name flashed on the screen, followed by 3 missed calls and a text. We need to talk. About everything. I deleted the messages without reading them. You look like you could use this. Zara appeared, holding out a cup of decent coffee, not the waiting room sludge. She'd come as soon as I'd called, still wearing her courtroom suit. They're talking about bypass surgery, I said, taking the coffee. The specialist alone costs. Stop. Zara sat down. First things first. I've already started the paperwork to freeze your joint accounts. Jonah's going to fight it. Let him. She pulled out her tablet. But there's something else you need to see. She pulled up a business registration document. Apex Ventures LLC had 2 principal owners listed, Jonah Calloway and Tamsin Rivers. There's more, Zara said quietly. The company address? It's a condo in Riverside Heights. Purchased 3 months ago by Tamsin Rivers with a substantial down payment. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. Around the same time as the first withdrawal from our account, a commotion at the nurse's station drew our attention. Jonah stood there, still in his business suit, arguing with the desk nurse. I'm family, he was saying. Her husband. It's okay, I called out, more to stop the scene than anything else. The nurse gave him a suspicious look but buzzed him through. He approached slowly, like someone approaching a wounded animal. Harper, I've been trying to reach you. About the accounts. Not here. I stood up, heading for the empty family consultation room. Once inside, I turned to face him. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? It's not what you think. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt. The investment opportunity was real. Is real. Tamsin and I. Tamsin. The name felt like acid. Your business partner? Or is there another reason you helped her buy a condo? His face went blank for a moment before understanding hit. You had me investigated? You stole from us. I borrowed from us. To build something of my own, instead of living in your shadow. A knock at the door made us both jump. Mom stood there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Harper? The doctor needs to discuss payment arrangements before they can schedule the surgery. The universe's cruel timing struck again. I looked at Jonah, really looked at him, and saw a stranger wearing my husband's face. I have to go, I said. Harper, wait. He caught my arm. Whatever you're thinking of doing, selling stocks, taking loans, let me fix this. The business is about to take off. We're expecting major investors. I pulled away. Like you fixed my parents' situation? Or like you fixed our marriage? Back at the nurse's station, the specialist was waiting with more forms. The numbers he quoted made my head spin. Even liquidating my personal investments wouldn't cover it all. There is another option, Zara said later as we watched Mom doze in her waiting room chair. Remember that headhunter who's been pursuing you? The position in Chicago. I did remember. Double my current salary plus signing bonus. I turned it down 3 times, unwilling to leave my life here. They called again yesterday, she continued. The offer still stands. If you want it. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Hi Harper. This is Tamsin. We should talk. There are things you need to know about Jonah and the business. I looked at Mom, at the consultation room where Jonah had disappeared to make calls, at the ICU doors behind which Dad was fighting for his life. Sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that hurt everyone, including yourself. Make the call, I told Zara. I'll take the job. Dad's surgery was scheduled for Monday. I had exactly 4 days to get everything in order before starting my new job in Chicago. The signing bonus would cover most of the medical bills, but I still needed to deal with the mess Jonah had left behind. I stood in our bedroom, packing essentials, when I heard the front door open. Heavy footsteps on the stairs. Not Jonah's. Breaking and entering is a crime, Mark. I didn't turn around as Mark Peterson appeared in the doorway. The door was unlocked. He leaned against the doorframe, expensive suit wrinkled from a long day. Jonah's worried about you. Is that why he sent his business partner instead of coming himself? He thought you might actually listen to me. Mark stepped into the room, eyeing my half-packed suitcase. Chicago, huh? Running away won't fix this, Harper. I shoved another handful of clothes into the suitcase. Neither will stealing from your wife to fund Tamsin's condo. That made him pause. What are you talking about? Oh, did Jonah leave that part out? The money he invested in Apex Ventures? It wasn't just our savings. The transactions match up perfectly with withdrawals from your joint account with Sarah. Mark's face went pale. That's impossible. He said he had private investors. My phone buzzed. Tamsin again, please meet me. What you think you know isn't the whole story. Your protege seems eager to talk, I said, showing him the message. Maybe we should all have a chat about where the money's really going. Don't. Mark's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Some things are better left alone. Like Sarah finding out about the missing money? Or about Tamsin? He moved faster than I expected, grabbing my arm. You have no idea what you're getting into. Let go of me. Harper. Mom's voice called from downstairs. Are you home? The hospital called about Dad's pre-op paperwork. Mark released me immediately, straightening his tie. Think carefully about your next move. Some wars aren't worth fighting. After he left, I sat on the bed, hands shaking. Mom appeared in the doorway, holding a stack of hospital forms. Was someone just here? I thought I heard voices. Just the TV. I forced a smile. How's Dad? Stubborn. Keeps saying we should look into cheaper options. She noticed the suitcase. So it's true? You're really taking the job in Chicago. Mom. No, it's okay. Your father told me what you're doing. The signing bonus, the salary increase. She sat beside me, taking my hand. We can't let you sacrifice everything for us. I'm not sacrificing anything. The lie tasted bitter. It's a great opportunity. Harper Elizabeth Linwood. She used my full name, something she hadn't done since I was a teenager. I raised you to be honest, at least with me. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Jonah. Just talk to Mark. We need to meet. All of us. Please. I have to go, I said, standing. The hospital forms can wait. Mom's voice was gentle but firm. Whatever's happening with you and Jonah, whatever's making you run, are you sure this is the answer? I looked at my half-packed life, at the text messages piling up on my phone, at the hospital forms that represented just one piece of this imploding puzzle. No, I admitted. But it's the only option I have left. My phone lit up with another message. This one was from Sarah Peterson. Just found some concerning bank statements. Can we talk? The threads were unraveling faster than I could keep track. Mark's threat echoed in my head. Some wars aren't worth fighting. But as I thought about Dad in his hospital bed, about Mom's quiet strength, about the life Jonah and I had built on what now felt like quicksand, I realized something. Some wars choose you. I texted Tamsin back. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. The coffee shop on 5th. Bring proof. The coffee shop on 5th was empty when I arrived, except for Tamsin, who sat at a corner table clutching a manila envelope. She looked different from the polished woman I'd seen in Mark's office. Younger, more vulnerable, with dark circles under her eyes. I ordered nothing, just sat down across from her. You have 5 minutes. First, you should know. She glanced at the door. Jonah doesn't know I'm here. That makes 2 of us. I checked my phone. No messages from the hospital. Dad's pre-op tests were scheduled for this morning. 4 minutes. She slid the envelope across the table. It's not what you think. The money. It wasn't for the condo. Or for us. Inside were bank statements, emails, and something that made my blood run cold. Photos of Mark Peterson meeting with men I recognized from news stories about investment fraud investigations. Mark's been laundering money through shell companies, Tamsin said quietly. Apex Ventures is just the latest one. He used Jonah's desperation to make it look legitimate. And you? Where do you fit in? I was Mark's assistant before all this. I found out what he was doing, thought I could. She swallowed hard. I thought I could help Jonah expose him. But Mark caught on. Now he's threatening to frame us both if we talk. My phone buzzed. Mom, doctor needs to talk to you. Important. Why should I believe you? Because in about 30 minutes, the SEC is raiding Mark's office. And because the coffee shop door chimed. Jonah walked in, followed by Mark Peterson. Tamsin went pale. Well, Mark said, his smile not reaching his eyes. Isn't this cozy? I stood up, gathering the envelope. But Mark moved faster. His hand closed over mine, pressing down until I released the documents. Harper, Jonah started. Whatever she told you. Save it. I turned to leave, but Mark blocked my path. We should discuss this like adults, he said. Perhaps at my office? My phone buzzed again. Zara, where are you? Hospital called. It's urgent. Move, I told Mark. After you hear us out. His grip on my arm tightened. About Chicago, about the money. The money you stole from your wife? I yanked free. Or the money you're laundering through my husband's company? Mark's face hardened. Careful, Harper. Some accusations can't be taken back. Let her go, Jonah said suddenly. Mark, this isn't. Shut up, Mark snapped. You've done enough damage. My phone rang Mom again. This time I answered. Harper. Her voice was shaking. Dad's tests. They found something else. The doctor says. He says we need to do the surgery today. Right now. The world tilted. I pushed past Mark, barely registering Jonah calling my name or Tamsin's warning shout. Outside, rain had started falling, matching the blur in my vision. My car was blocked in by Mark's Mercedes. As I fumbled for my phone to call a ride, another car pulled up, Sarah Peterson's familiar Range Rover. She rolled down the window, face grim. Get in. Sarah, I got your message about the accounts. She glanced at the coffee shop door. And I have copies of everything Tamsin just gave you. Now get in the car before my husband comes out. Behind us, I heard Mark's voice rising. Through the rain-streaked windows, I saw Jonah step between him and the door, saying something I couldn't hear. Harper, Sarah said softly. Your father needs you. The rest can wait. I got in the car. As we pulled away, I saw Jonah in the rearview mirror, standing in the rain, watching us leave. He looked lost, like the boy I'd fallen in love with years ago, before ambition and insecurity had turned him into someone I didn't recognize. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number. SEC raid delayed. Mark knows. Be careful. Sarah pressed the accelerator, and the coffee shop disappeared behind us. Whatever you're planning, she said, count me in. Sometimes rock bottom comes with unexpected allies. The hospital waiting room had become my second home, but this time felt different. Dad was in surgery, Mom was praying in the chapel, and I was staring at my phone, watching the SEC's raid on Mark's office unfold through frantic text messages from Tamsin. Sarah sat beside me, her own phone buzzing constantly. Mark's lawyers are already trying to spin this. He's claiming Jonah orchestrated everything. Will they believe him? They might. She handed me a coffee. Unless someone can prove otherwise. My phone lit up with an incoming call, Jonah. Before I could decline it, the hospital PA system crackled. Code blue or 3. Code blue or 3. Dad's operating room. The next hour passed in a blur of rushing doctors, Mom's quiet sobs, and my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. When the surgeon finally emerged, his face told us everything before he spoke. We almost lost him, he said. But he's stable. The next 24 hours are critical. I stepped outside to breathe, only to find Jonah waiting by the hospital entrance. Harper, don't. My voice sounded strange, distant. Whatever you're going to say, I can't. Mark's going to pin everything on me. He stepped closer, desperation in his eyes. The money laundering, the fraud, all of it. I'll go to prison. And Dad almost died today. I turned to go back inside, but he caught my arm. I know where Mark keeps his real records, he said quickly. Everything that proves he was behind it all. But I need your help to get them. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Now you need my help? Please. His voice cracked. I know I don't deserve it, but… Mrs. Calloway? A nurse appeared at the door. Your father's asking for you. I pulled away from Jonah, but he pressed something into my hand, a USB drive. Tamsin already copied most of the files, he whispered. But the originals are in Mark's home office safe. The combination is on here, along with everything else we found. Why should I trust you? Because you know me. His eyes met mine. The real me, not who I became trying to prove myself to everyone else. The nurse cleared her throat pointedly. As I turned to go, Jonah called out one last time. I never meant for any of this to happen. I couldn't stand being in your shadow anymore. I stopped, not turning around. You weren't in my shadow, Jonah. You were by my side. Until you chose not to be. Inside, I found Sarah waiting with news. Mark had been arrested, but his lawyers were already working on a deal, one that would sacrifice Jonah and Tamsin to save himself. We have 12 hours, she said, before he gives his official statement. I looked at the USB drive in my hand, then at the ICU where both my parents waited. Mom caught my eye through the window and nodded slightly, as if answering an unasked question. Okay, I said, turning to Sarah. You said you're in? Prove it. I need your keycard to your house. Mark changed the alarm codes yesterday, but not the safe combination. I held up the USB drive. At least not yet. Sarah's smile was sharp. I'll create a distraction at the police station. Keep Mark busy for a few hours. And I'll help, came a voice behind us. Tamsin stood there, looking determined. I owe you both that much. I thought about all the times I'd played it safe, followed the rules, tried to be the perfect daughter, wife, professional. Look where it had got me. One condition, I told them both. Whatever we find, whatever happens, the truth comes out. All of it. No more secrets, no more lies. Even if that means Jonah still faces consequences? Tamsin asked quietly. I touched my wedding ring, then slowly removed it. Everyone faces consequences eventually. The question is whether they face them on their own terms or someone else's. Sometimes justice and revenge look remarkably similar. The difference lies in what you're willing to sacrifice to achieve them. Let's go, I said. We have work to do. 6 months later, I stood in my Chicago office, watching snow fall over Lake Michigan. The view still felt surreal, like something from someone else's life. On my desk, today's newspaper headline announced Mark Peterson's sentencing, 15 years for fraud and money laundering. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Just sold the house. Finally free. She testified against Mark, helping build the case that saved Jonah and Tamsin from the worst charges. They'd still faced consequences, probation, fines, professional censure, but nothing like what Mark had planned for them. A knock at my door pulled me from my thoughts. My assistant handed me a manila envelope that had just arrived. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Inside was a check, the exact amount Jonah had taken from our joint account, plus interest. And a letter. Harper, I'm starting over in Seattle. New job, small accounting firm. No shortcuts this time. The therapy's helping me understand why I needed to prove myself so badly that I lost sight of who I really was. Who we were. I heard about your father's recovery. I'm glad. You deserved at least one happy ending in all this. Gee. My phone rang Mom's weekly call. The doctors say Dad can start working part-time next month, she said after we exchanged greetings. Just consulting at the garage. Nothing strenuous. That's great. I touched the check on my desk. How's the new house? Smaller, but closer to your sister's kids. Sometimes the best things come from what we think are our worst moments. After we hung up, I walked to the conference room where my team was gathering. My first major project as division head was about to launch, an ethical investment fund focused on supporting small businesses. Zara had helped me structure it legally, ensuring transparency at every level. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd built something positive from the ashes of Mark's schemes. Ready? My assistant asked, holding the door. I paused, looking at Jonah's check one last time. The old Harper would have torn it up, clinging to righteous anger. The old Harper would have needed that gesture of rejection to feel strong. Instead, I pulled out my phone and typed, check received. There's a small business investment fund you might be interested in. If you're serious about starting over, let me know. The response came quickly. I'd like that. In the conference room, faces turned toward me expectantly. These people had trusted my vision, chosen to follow my lead. Not because I was perfect, but because I'd learned that true strength comes from acknowledging our failures and choosing to build something better. Before we start, I said, I want to tell you a story about why this fund matters. About how easy it is to lose your way when you're trying to prove something and how much harder and more important it is to find your way back. Later that night, I stood in my new apartment, looking at the city lights. On my coffee table sat a framed photo I'd recently unpacked, me and Jonah on our wedding day, young and full of certainty about our future. I didn't tear it up, didn't hide it away. Instead, I placed it on a shelf alongside newer photos, Dad in his hospital room giving a thumbs up after recovery, Mom in front of their cozy new house, Sarah and her kids at their fresh start celebration, my team at our fund's first closing. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Tamsin, thank you. For understanding. For forgiveness. For showing me there's always another way. I thought about revenge, about justice, about the fine line between them. In the end, the best revenge wasn't about destroying those who hurt us. It was about building something stronger from the broken pieces they left behind. Sometimes the happy ending isn't the one you planned for. Sometimes it's better.